In the history of the NFL, there has never been, and may never be again, a player like Lawrence Taylor. A defender so explosive, so violent, so disruptive, that he permanently changed the sport. Coaches redesigned offenses because of him. Quarterbacks feared him. Offensive tackles lost sleep the night before facing him. And behind that unstoppable force was a man battling chaos, addiction, demons, and a lifestyle that would have destroyed almost anyone else. This is the unbelievable true story of Lawrence Taylor, the man who dominated football while living life on the edge of destruction. Before Lawrence Taylor terrorized the NFL, he was an unlikely athlete growing up in Williamsburg, Virginia, a kid who didn't take sports seriously and didn't even touch a football field until age 15. But once he did, coaches immediately recognized something raw and terrifying in his play. The size of a defensive end, the speed of a running back, and a violent fearlessness that made young Taylor look like a grown man among boys. At the University of North Carolina, that raw talent evolved into total domination. Taylor became an All-American and by 1981 entered the NFL as a New York Giant, arriving with a chip on his shoulder and a style of play so intense it would make veteran players question their own careers. The monster had been unleashed. When Taylor arrived at Giants training camp, teammates instantly realized the league wasn't prepared for the storm that was coming. He hit harder, moved faster, and played with a reckless violence no one had ever seen in a linebacker. Harry Carson later joked that players thought someone might literally die if they got in LT's way. Taylor exploded into the league, winning Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season, something no player has repeated. Week after week, offensive linemen were humiliated, quarterbacks were blindsided, and coaches scrambled desperately to develop new schemes solely to slow him down. The NFL had never encountered a player like Taylor, and quickly realized it had no blueprint for stopping him. Taylor didn't just dominate opponents, he psychologically broke them. Quarterbacks openly admitted fearing him, offensive coordinators lost sleep game planning against him, and film study sessions turned into survival seminars. Joe Theismann, who would later suffer the most infamous injury in league history at Taylor's hands, once said facing LT was like preparing for an exam you knew you were destined to fail. On November 18, 1985, Taylor delivered the bone-breaking hit that snapped Theismann's leg on national television, a moment so shocking that even LT immediately signaled for medical help, horrified by the damage. But that injury sent a message across the league. Lawrence Taylor was too powerful, too fast, and too unpredictable to contain. Teams redesigned offensive lines, quarterbacks changed how they played, and the left tackle position, once an afterthought, became one of the highest paid in the sport. Fear had reshaped football. Off the field, Taylor's life spiraled into a whirlwind of addiction, nightlife, and risky behavior fueled by the same intensity that made him a legend. LT later admitted to frequent cocaine and alcohol use throughout his career, sometimes arriving at practice hungover or still high from the night before, relying on sweat and adrenaline to mask the effects. He recounted stories of skipping sleep, partying until sunrise, and even using teammates' urine to pass drug tests. Friends, teammates, and coaches watched a man who lived like a rock star, fully aware he was flirting with disaster, but unable or unwilling to stop. His off-field life was chaos, adrenaline, and excess blended into a lifestyle that could have ended his career or his life at any moment. Despite the addictions, the late-night partying, and the lifestyle spiraling dangerously out of control, Taylor continued to dominate the NFL with a level of brilliance rarely seen in any athlete. Bill Belichick, who built entire game plans around Taylor's abilities, said LT was the greatest player he ever coached, an athlete capable of doing things no playbook could predict. Taylor's explosiveness off the snap, combined with his ability to bend around the edge like a sprinter, made him nearly unblockable. His instincts were legendary. He could read a play before the ball was even snapped. In a league full of disciplined, structured athletes, Taylor was pure, uncontrolled genius. Coaches often joked that he didn't just break the rules, he forced them to rewrite the entire sport to keep up with him. As the years passed, the physical and emotional toll of Taylor's lifestyle began to show. Injuries mounted, his body slowed, and his off-field troubles became more frequent and more public. Suspensions, rehab visits, legal issues, and media scrutiny followed him as relentlessly as the offenses he once terrorized. Yet even in decline, Taylor remained better than most players in the league, still capable of game-changing plays fueled by instinct and competitiveness. By the time he retired, he left behind a resume that felt almost mythical. 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 10 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl championships, and a reputation as the most feared defender the NFL had ever seen. But behind the trophies, the cracks were widening. Retirement didn't bring peace. If anything, it exposed just how deeply Taylor had relied on football to hold his life together. Without the structure of the game, he struggled with addiction, legal troubles, and the loss of identity that so many elite athletes face once the spotlight fades. For years, headlines chronicled his arrests and personal challenges, painting a portrait of a man trying, and often failing, to outrun his past. But as time passed, Taylor began speaking more openly about his mistakes, his addictions, and the cost of his own legend. Older, reflective, and humbled, he acknowledged the chaos he inflicted on himself and the people around him. He knew that the same fire that made him great nearly destroyed him. Lawrence Taylor's story is a contradiction, one of the most dominant forces in sports history, yet one of its most self-destructive personalities. He redefined the linebacker position, reshaped offensive strategy, and left behind a legacy that every defensive player still studies today. But he also left behind cautionary lessons about addiction, fame, and the cost of living life at full speed. LT was a hero and a warning, a phenomenon and a problem, a man who brought chaos to the field and carried even more home with him. His greatness is unquestioned, but so is the price he paid for it. In the end, Lawrence Taylor wasn't just a football player, he was a force of nature, beautiful, terrifying, unstoppable, and unforgettable. Thanks for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe for more.